Under the cold, quiet sky, the night above Earth was never supposed to change but tonight. Every star watcher, every sky lover, and even those who never cared about the heavens, could see it. Something was moving far beyond the moon, glowing with a strange silver and green light sliding slowly across the darkness like a living star. Dr. Emily Carter sat alone in the small observatory on the edge of Arizona. Desert, her tired eyes scanning data streams while her computer mapped the strange object. At first, she thought it was a comet, but its path was wrong to precise, and then it did. Something impossible. It stopped completely hanging in the sky for 6 full minutes before moving again. She leaned closer to the screen, her heart beating faster. The movement was deliberate, almost like the thing was looking around, scanning, and then the signal came. Not a normal radio wave, but a deep pulse that made her speakers buzz even though they were turned off. It was low, heavy, and carried a repeating pattern: thud, thud, pause, thud, thud, pause, each pause exactly the same length. Emily started recording the signal, running it through every decoding program she had. The pattern was too clean to be random, and then her blood ran cold as she realized it was a countdown on the other side of the galaxy in the shining capital city of Varelia. A young officer named Kale stood before the High Council. His uniform perfect, his face calm, but inside his mind was burning with confusion. The council chamber was silent except for the voice of the first speaker saying the ancient words that had not been spoken in 3,000 years: prepare the fleet. Earth has been marked. Kale's stomach turned. This was not possible. His people had not gone to war. In lifetimes, weapons were banned. Entire generations had grown in peace. Yet now the council ordered mobilization as if the end was coming. He followed his orders, walking to the command docks where enormous starships floated like silver mountains. But as he walked, an old voice reached him from behind Officer Kale. Wait, it was Oren, the AI archivist, his metallic body moving with slow grace, his voice soft and ancient. The last time these orders were given, the skies burned for centuries. Kale frowned. The council says, Earth is a threat. Oren's eyes dimmed. Threats are not always what they seem back in Arizona. Emily's equipment began to fail. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped as if something had pulled the heat from the air, and then her monitor showed something that froze her in place. The countdown was no longer numbers. It was forming shapes, letters, symbols she did not recognize, and yet somehow she felt she knew them. Each curve, each line seemed to pull at her. Memory like a dream she could not remember. She grabbed her phone and called her colleague, Dr. Harris, but the line only gave static, and faintly under the static a voice began to whisper, not in English, not in any language she knew, but somehow her brain understood. It was saying a date, a time, and her name, Emily Carter. She dropped the phone, her hands shaking, the whispering growing louder as if the speaker was right behind her. She turned. But the observatory was empty. Only the hum of the telescope filled the room, and then the green light in the sky flared so bright it turned night into day. Kale stood on the deck of his command cruiser, looking at the tactical display. Earth's blue sphere glowing in the center. Soon the fleet would arrive. The timer on his console matching the one in his memory from the archives. The same pattern, the same doom, and yet something inside him whispered, this is wrong. Oren's last words echoed in his head. The last time this signal came, it was not a warning. It was an invitation. Emily stared at the blinding light above her, feeling her skin prickle as the air around her vibrated. The countdown was almost at 0. She didn't know who was calling her or why her name was written in the sky, but she knew one thing: when it reached 0, something would come and Earth would never be the same. Again, Emily stood frozen in the observatory. The strange light still burning in the sky, the countdown now so close to 0 that each pulse seemed to shake the walls around her. She could not breathe properly, her thoughts racing through fear and confusion. She wanted to call someone, anyone, but a deep feeling told her this was beyond any help Earth could offer. Her computer flickered, the screen showing patterns shifting faster and faster until they suddenly stopped, forming a single symbol, a perfect circle with 3 intersecting lines inside it. She did not recognize it yet. The moment she saw it, her mind swam with a strange memory of standing on a vast plain under 2 suns, hearing voices speaking in harmony, calling her name. She shook her head, trying to break free of the image, but then the observatory lights exploded in a shower of sparks. and the entire building was thrown into darkness. Thousands of light-years away, Kale stood in the strategy chamber of the Varelian flagship, watching as the fleet adjusted its formation. The holographic image of Earth hung in the center of the room, its oceans and clouds spinning slowly the high. Commander entered, his voice sharp and cold. The countdown will end soon. Kale, you will lead the first observation squad before the cleansing begins. Kale wanted to speak out, to say that this was wrong, but one glance at the other officers told him that questioning orders now would mean immediate trial for treason. He saluted and left, but as he walked toward his docking bay, Oren appeared on the screen. Kale, listen to me. The Council is not telling you the truth. They have lied for 3,000 years. Earth is not the danger. Kale lowered his voice, glancing around. And what is? Oren paused, as if weighing the cost of words. The last war was not fought to protect our world. It was fought to keep something hidden that something was. Left on Earth, Kale frowned. What is it? Oren's eyes dimmed again. It is called the core equation back on Earth. Oh, cool. Emily's panic deepened when her laptop powered back on by itself without her touching it. Lines of alien script flooded the screen. And rearranged into English, find the core equation before they arrive. She whispered the words aloud, feeling the weight of them even though she did not understand what they meant. Then her phone buzzed. A blocked number, she answered, and a deep voice spoke clearly. Dr. Carter, you must listen to me. You have been marked. Do not speak to anyone about the light. Do not leave your observatory until we arrive. Before she could ask who this was, the line went dead. Kale's squad launched into orbit there. Sleek black craft vanishing into stealth mode, but Kale could feel the tension in the air. The mission was supposed to be simple. Scan the planet, identify threats, mark locations for strike, but his instincts told him that nothing about this was simple or safe. And then a quiet alarm rang on his console. Something was scanning them back. Earth's technology should not have been able to detect their cloaked ship yet. Someone had locked onto their position. He pulled up the source of the scan and froze. It was coming from a small observatory in Arizona. Emily stared at the sky, her telescope feed now showing a faint outline of something massive moving above the clouds. She could not see it with the naked eye, but the equipment caught its shape like a shadow against the stars. She adjusted the focus and saw the impossible, a ship dark and sleek, moving silently. She had no proof, no one to tell, but her mind screamed, they are here. At that exact moment, Kale's filled with static, and then a faint human voice speaking in Varelian, the ancient language of his ancestors, the language no human could ever know. Kale, this is not what you think. Kale's hands trembled. How do you know my name? The voice ignored the question. Find me before they do. Both of us are running out of time, Emily gasped as the whispering in her head turned stronger now, showing her flashes of a metal city towers, glowing under a green sky, and faces both human and alien. Standing together in battle, she could feel their fear, their determination, and then one image stayed, a small metallic cube with the same circle symbol she had seen earlier resting in the palm of a human soldier. Kale's ship passed over Arizona, and his instruments spiked the core. Equation is here, he whispered before shutting down the sensors to hide the reading from the fleet. He didn't know what it was exactly, only that Oren had said it could end all weapons in the galaxy, maybe even stop the war before it started, but the High Council would never allow that. The countdown reached its final numbers, and in both the observatory and the flagship, the last pulse hit a deep, endless sound that rattled bones and shook the air. Emily and Kale looked to the sky, at the same moment, both knowing that whatever was coming next would decide the fate of not just Earth, but two worlds bound by a truth no one had spoken for 3,000 years. Emily could not move. The deep sound from the countdown still echoed in her bones, as if it had become part of her heartbeat. Outside, the desert was silent, too silent. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. Her eyes stayed locked on the glowing shape above the clouds, but now there was something else. A faint shimmer falling from the sky, like strands of light, drifting downward slowly at first, then faster, until they vanished into the horizon. She felt a pressure in her head, a sudden rush of thoughts, and images, places she had never been, streets of glass, glowing rivers. a great hall with hundreds of alien voices chanting in unison. She grabbed the edge of the telescope for balance. Her knees weak, and then she saw him in her mind, a young alien. Soldier with sharp silver eyes and a uniform unlike anything she had seen. He was speaking to her, though his mouth did not move. Kale, find the core equation before they destroy it. Kale sat in the cockpit of his stealth craft trying to process what had just happened. The human woman in his vision had spoken his name in perfect Varelian. His language had been forbidden to outsiders for centuries, yet her voice was flawless and clear. Oren's warning grew heavier in his thoughts. If she could see him, if she knew the core equation, then the Council's story about Earth being dangerous was falling apart. He tapped a hidden sequence on his console, locking the sensor readings into a private channel only he could open. Back on Earth, Emily's phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID showed no number, only the symbol from the sky. She hesitated, then answered. A calm female voice spoke. You do not know me, but I know what you are seeing. You are not the first human to hear the call, Emily. Swallowed hard. Who are you? A long pause. Then the voice replied, someone who will die if I tell you more. Meet me in 2 hours at the abandoned airstrip north of Phoenix. Come alone. Before Emily could respond, the line cut. Kale's squad was ordered to begin low-orbit sweeps of North America, mapping possible military sites, but he ignored the exact route given by his commander. Instead, he guided his craft toward the Arizona desert, tracking the faint signal from Emily's location. He knew this was dangerous. If he was caught deviating from the mission, it could mean execution, but something inside told him that his life had already changed the moment. Her voice entered his mind. Emily packed quickly, grabbing her laptop, the hard drives with the recorded signal, and a small bag of essentials. She hesitated at the door. The observatory felt different now, like a place that no longer belonged to her outside. The desert air was heavy with heat, yet a strange coolness brushed her skin as she started her car on the Varelian flagship. The High Commander noticed Kale's craft drifting off course. He opened a COM channel. Officer Kale, your coordinates are incorrect. Correct course immediately. Kale kept his voice steady. Minor navigation interference recalibrating, sir. He cut the channel before any further questions came and pushed the ship faster. The desert stretched below him, endless and quiet. From above, he could see a lone vehicle moving along a dirt road toward a flat clearing. It matched the human's position exactly. Emily reached the airstrip just before sunset. The cracked asphalt glowed orange under the fading light. No one was there. She stepped out of the car, her eyes scanning the horizon, her heart pounding, and then the air shimmered. A shadow formed against the sky, and the shape of a ship appeared, lowering silently. The craft stopped just above the ground, its hull black and smooth. Kale stepped out the moment their eyes met. She knew he was the figure. From her vision, Kale studied her, too surprised by the strange sense of recognition, as if they had met long before either of them was born. Emily spoke first. You're the one in my head, Kale nodded, and you're the one who spoke in my language. Before more could be said, a loud rumble shook the ground. Another ship appeared, this one larger and armed. Varelian military. Kale's eyes widened. They found us, he grabbed Emily's arm. Get inside now. She hesitated only for a second before following him into the small craft. As they lifted off, the second ship fired a warning shot, scorching the air behind them. Kale activated the cloaking field, but the damage had been done. The fleet knew. He had made contact with a human. Emily clutched her bag tighter, her mind racing. What do they want from me? Kale glanced at her. Not what they told my people they want. They told us Earth was dangerous, but you are the key to stopping the war. You have something inside you connected to the core equation. Emily shook her head. I don't even know what that is. Kale's voice was grim. You will soon, but first we have to stay alive. Cloaked craft cut through the upper atmosphere, the desert below, shrinking into a patchwork of shadows. Emily sat strapped into the co-pilot seat, her hands gripping the armrests. Her eyes locked on the endless black ahead. Every few seconds, the hull shuddered as if invisible waves were striking them. Kale's face stayed calm, but his hands moved fast over the control. Surface shifting power between engines and shields. They're trying to track us, he said without looking at her. Who? Emily asked. The High Council and anyone loyal to them. They will not stop until they have you. She felt the weight of those words Pressing on her chest, "What do they want from me?" Kale kept his eyes on the readouts. "They believe you can find the core equation, but they will never tell you what it really is or why it was hidden. If they control it, they will control the galaxy." Again, before she could ask more, the ship jolted. Violently, a sharp alarm filling the cabin. Kale swore under his breath, "We've been tagged 3 ships." Closing fast, he slammed the throttle forward, the stars blurring outside, but the pursuers did not fall back. In fact, they were gaining. Emily's fear rose with the rising tone of the alarm. "Can we outrun them?" Kale shook his head. "Not for long, unless—" His voice trailed off as he brought up a navigation map. "There is a storm system forming over the Pacific. Its electromagnetic interference may hide us, but flying into it could tear the ship apart." Emily glanced at the flashing red indicators already lining the console. "Maybe we don't have a choice." Gale dove the craft toward Earth's. Curved the blue of the ocean swelling in the viewport behind them. 3 dark shapes followed, slicing through the atmosphere with deadly precision in the capital of Veralia. The High Commander paced before the High Council's great table, his voice sharp. "Kale has broken protocol. He has made contact with the human." The first speaker's expression remained cold. "Send the first fleet to Earth. The cleansing begins now." Back in the air above the Pacific, Kale plunged the craft into the storm clouds. Lightning flashed so bright it lit the cabin in bursts of white. The ship bucked violently, each strike rattling through its frame. "Hold on," he shouted. Emily gritted her teeth, every muscle tense. The sound of wind and thunder drowned everything until, for one brief moment, there was silence. Kale looked at the sensors and smiled. "We lost them," he said, before the relief could settle. A new alert pinged. A transmission was coming through on a secure channel. Kale hesitated before accepting the signal. Oren's voice filled the cabin. "Kale, the Council has deployed the planetary strike weapon. You must reach the location I am sending you. The core equation is buried there. Without it, Earth will burn." The coordinates appeared on the display. A remote mountain range in South America. Emily stared at them, a flicker of recognition passing through her mind. "I know that place," she whispered. Kale turned to her. How she shook her head. "I've seen it in the visions from the signal. There's a temple. They're buried in the rock." Kale set the course, but before they could jump to high speed, the storm ripped through their shields. One engine flared and died, forcing them to glide low over the waves. The damage warning blared across the control panel. "We can still make it," Kale said, "but the fleet will be there soon." Emily's thoughts raced as she pieced together fragments of the visions. The alien soldiers, the human faces, the cube with the circle symbol, it was all connected to that temple. As the battered ship climbed over the coastline, she saw flashes in the sky behind them. The fleet had arrived. Kale pushed the remaining engine to its limit, the ship screaming through the thin mountain air far ahead. Dark stone peaks rose like teeth. Into the clouds, hidden among them somewhere, lay the one thing that could stop the war. But as they closed in, the first Varelian warship broke through the clouds above their path, weapons glowing. Kale's voice was steady, but urgent. "Hold on, Emily. This is where we find out if we live long enough to change everything." The mountains rose high and jagged, their peaks wrapped in clouds that swirled like smoke. Kale's damaged craft wove between them, its single working engine screaming under the strain. Emily kept her eyes on the narrow valley ahead. The coordinates Oren had sent matched the place from her visions, exactly each turn of the peaks. Each shadow of the cliffs felt like a memory she never lived, but somehow carried inside. Her Kale checked the scanners. No ships directly ahead, but several closing. "From the east, they're boxing us in," he said grimly. "We won't have long once we land." Emily's pulse quickened as they skimmed a ridge and dove into a hidden canyon where the walls rose steep and close. The valley floor appeared ahead, a wide basin of dark stone with a strange formation in its center. At first it looked like a natural rock spire, but as they came closer, she saw smooth surfaces carved with the same circle and line symbol from the countdown. "This is it," Emily breathed. Kale brought the craft down hard, the landing gear grinding against stone. They jumped out. The air here was thin, cold, and filled with a strange electric charge that made the hairs on Emily's arms stand on end. The spire towered above them, its surface covered in markings both alien and human in style. Emily ran her fingers over one of the carvings and felt heat pulse through it. Her vision blurred, and she was somewhere else standing in the same valley, but it was alive with activity humans. And Varelians working side by side, building the spire together. Laughter and voices in both languages filled the air, and then a sudden explosion ripped through the vision's screams. Echoing before it all faded, she gasped, pulling her hand back. Kale was watching her closely. You saw something, she nodded. They built this together, humans and your people, before the last war. Kale's expression hardened, so the council lied again. Emily stepped around the base of the spire until she found a narrow opening hidden by a curtain of vines. Inside, the air was warmer, the walls glowing faintly as if alive symbols lit up as she passed her hand. Near them, leading deeper into a chamber at the center, stood a pedestal, and on it a small metallic cube, etched with the same circle symbol. Kale stepped forward reverently. The core equation. Emily felt her heart beat in her throat. She reached out, and the moment her fingers touched the cube, her mind was filled with a flood of knowledge, flashes of equations, symbols, and then visions of great weapons falling silent, ships drifting powerless in space, and armies laying down arms without a fight. It's not a weapon, she whispered. It stops weapons, all of them, forever. Kale's eyes widened. Orin was right. This could end war in the entire galaxy. Emily looked at him. Then why would your council want it destroyed? Kale's voice was low. Because without war they cannot control the people. Before either of them could move, a blast shook the chamber. Dust and stone falling from above the entrance glowed red as plasma fire cut through the vines. Varelian soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Kale drew the small sidearm he had smuggled despite the ban on personal arms. Get behind me. Emily clutched the cube to her chest. The soldiers advanced, but before they could fire, a deafening hum filled the chamber. The cube in her hands glowed brighter and brighter, till beams of light shot from it, striking the weapons and melting them into useless shards. The soldiers froze in shock. Kale didn't wait, grabbing Emily's hand and pulling her toward a side tunnel. The cube's light guiding their way, they emerged onto a high ledge overlooking the valley, but the sight below made Emily's breath catch. The sky was filled with Varelian warships, hundreds of them blocking out the sun. Kale's cum crackled, and Orin's voice came through, urgent. You must activate the core equation now. The planetary strike is charging. Kale glanced at Emily. It will affect Earth's defenses too. She met his eyes steady. If it's the only way to stop this, do it. He nodded, placing his hands over hers on the cube together. They spoke the activation phrase that had appeared in her visions. The cube pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of light that rolled out across the mountains, into the sky, and beyond. Ships above them flickered and fell silent. Weapons powered down everywhere, even in orbit. For a heartbeat, the world was silent, and then the cum filled with furious voices from the High Council demanding Kale's surrender. Emily and Kale exchanged a look. They had just made themselves enemies of an empire. Silence after the light wave was almost unreal. No engines, no weapons, no thunder of warships. Above the valley, only the faint whistle of wind through the peaks. Emily stood still, the core equation warm in her hands, its glow fading slowly. Kale scanned the sky. Every massive vessel that had filled it moments ago now drifted powerless there. Lights dead, their weapons useless. For the first time in her life, Emily felt like she was standing at the center of something much larger than Earth. Kale's cum crackled with angry shouts from the High Council, their voices sharp with panic and rage. Kale, you will surrender at once. You have violated the war code. The first speaker's voice cut through. But Kale didn't answer. He shut off the channel and turned to Emily. They won't stop. They'll rebuild and come again, unless the truth is known. Emily's fingers tightened on the cube. Then we show them, she said. Kale nodded. There is a broadcast chamber in the capital, still linked to every colony and ship in the fleet if we can reach it. The truth of the last war and the core equation can be shown to everyone. He led her back to the ship, its damaged hull hissing in the thin air. It would not fly far, but Kale had already plotted a jump to a nearby Varelian relay station, enough to get them into the system. They lifted off the valley. Shrinking below as they broke through the clouds, the massive warships hung like dead statues in the sky, drifting with the pull of gravity as they entered space. Kale engaged the jump drive. The stars stretched and bent, then snapped back into place. The relay station hung before them, silent and unguarded. They docked quickly and moved through its empty corridors. the lights flickering with low power inside the main chamber. Kale accessed the central console. Orin appeared on the screen, his metallic face calm. "You've done it, Kale. Now the truth can be told. I've unlocked the archives." Emily stepped forward and the console came alive with streams of images and records. Battles from 3,000 years ago showing humans and Varelians fighting together against a shadowy enemy, then the betrayal of the High Council, seizing the core equation, wiping history clean, and declaring the war a necessary defense to hide their crime. Kale transmitted the entire record through the relay to every functioning screen and COM unit in the Varelian network. Even the powerless ships received it as their emergency receivers came online. Emily imagined the shock across the Empire's soldiers learning their leaders had lied for generations, but the moment of triumph was cut short. A new signal broke into the feed, deep and steady, a voice unlike any they had heard before resonating through the station. "We heard your silence now. We come." Emily felt the words inside her bones. Kale's hands flew over the console, trying to trace the source, but Orin answered first. "It is not from Varelia, and not from Earth. It is far beyond this galaxy. The same force that ended the last war is returning." Kale's jaw tightened. How long? Orin's eyes dimmed. Weeks, perhaps less. Emily's mind raced. If they could disable every weapon in the galaxy, had they also left the galaxy defenseless against something worse? Orin's voice was grave. The core equation was made to end the wars of the living, not to fight what comes. Kale looked at Emily. "If this is true, we will need more than the truth to survive." She glanced down at the cube, feeling its weight and its quiet hum. What if the equation can do more than we know? Orin tilted his head, perhaps, but unlocking its full potential will require both your worlds working together again as they once did. Kale reached for the COM, opening a channel to the human governments. "This is Officer Kale of the Varelian fleet. We have a choice: stand divided and fall, or unite and face what's coming together." Static filled the reply for a long moment. Then a human voice answered. "We're listening." Emily exhaled slowly, her fear mingling with determination. Kale powered the ship for the journey back to Earth. The stars beyond seemed darker now, as if something vast moved behind them. She didn't know what was coming, only that the peace they had just won might be the only thing that could save them if it held. But in her mind, the final words of the unknown voice echoed like a warning. "Now we come."